Welcome to HP FanFiction. Support me by subscribing the channel. Also, like and share the video to keep me motivated to make more videos like these. The portkey they'd left with him could only be activated from the other side when his presence was explicitly required. Snape didn't even know where it pointed to. After reappearing, the professor regained his composure and looked around. It was the same cemetery where he'd been called last time. It seems he doesn't trust me with a portkey that leads directly to the house. Snape thought. Voldemort had always been cautious, and it appeared that becoming even more monstrous had done nothing to change that. Hearing footsteps, he assumed it was another of the Dark Lord's minions sent to fetch him. "Well, who do we have here?" A middle-aged woman with a cruel smile appeared from behind a large tombstone and began to approach him. "Electo," Snape muttered. This was one of the infamous Carrow twins and one of the few women who he feared. She has also been the talk of the public very recently, so it was easy to recognize her. This is the one who took over Dumbledore's position as Chief Warlock of the Wizengamot. He hadn't seen her during his last visit. But then again, there had been so many people that it was easy to miss someone, and his attention had been somewhere else on that day. Two more figures stepped into the open area, becoming visible in the moonlight. Unsurprisingly, Amicus Carrow was also present. The twins were inseparable. "Severus, how have you been?" The lanky man with long black hair and an unkempt beard sneered. Amicus usually had a jovial attitude that was completely opposite to his sister's no-nonsense one. "I'm fine," Snape replied. He never liked this man, always making light of every situation. Instead, he focused his eyes on the last person, who was no other than his godson. But Draco Malfoy barely acknowledged him, seeming preoccupied with something else. "Don't mind him," Amicus said with a smirk. "He's just nervous about tonight's hunt." Snape's eyes widened slightly. "Hunt? Hey, I'm not nervous," Draco retorted, feeling obviously offended by the comment. "You weren't even told the reason for this meeting? Seems like you've really fallen out of the Dark Lord's favor," Alecto said with a somber tone. Amicus was about to add something when the ground shook violently. Snape looked up as something massive blocked the faint light, casting a huge shadow. The giant, who must have been lying behind the graves, had somehow gone unnoticed until he stood up. He let out a loud grunt, sounding displeased. Even by giant standards, this one was particularly tall. "What's wrong, Grunt? Did we wake you from your nap?" Amicus chuckled. "Don't mind him, Severus. He's always a bit grumpy." Snape did his best to appear impassive. "Tell me about this hunt." "Oh, don't be in such a hurry. You'll find out soon enough. The rest should be arriving any moment," Amicus replied. As if on cue, they began hearing sounds of apparition and portkeys activating. Within moments, a large group of Death Eaters assembled in the old graveyard, but there was no sign of the Dark Lord. "All right, seems like we're all here." Bellatrix took charge, and nobody objected. Snape didn't know much about her relationship with her husband, but considering that he stood silently at her side, it was obvious who held the higher rank. "The night is young, so let's not waste it. You know your targets and what you're to do," Bellatrix commanded. "I expect each of you to report back to me before dawn. Give them the ultimatum, and if they refuse, show no mercy." Snape remained puzzled, having been given no explanation of the night's objective. "Are we raiding Muggles, or is this something else?" This seemed like an odd time for a Muggle raid. As far as he knew, there hadn't been a single attack on Muggle territory since the Dark Lord's return. "Severus, come here." Bellatrix waved him over. While the others prepared to depart, she was left mostly alone, with only an older wizard, Corbin Yaxley, by her side. She pulled something small from her pocket and handed it to him. "I assume you didn't bring a broom, so you can use this one." Snape looked down and saw a tiny broom. "We're flying?" he asked. Yaxley had already removed the shrinking spell on his broom, and Bellatrix was doing the same. "Yes, and you're coming with me." Her yellow eyes gleamed under the moonlight. "Listen, Severus, you're on thin ice right now, and I'm sure you're aware of that. Tonight I'll be watching your performance." "So that's what this is," Snape realized. This was likely a test of his loyalty. If he showed even a hint of hesitation, he'd likely be eliminated. That would explain why Bellatrix was with him. She seemed to be the Dark Lord's most trusted and perhaps his most powerful follower. Snape watched as the other groups mounted their brooms and took off toward somewhere. The homes of some unfortunate people, no doubt. He glanced toward the Carrow twins, curious about the giant's mode of transport. To his surprise, the giant clasped his iron bracelets together, shrinking from a towering colossus to something resembling a very tall, very ugly human. He was still unable to fly on a broom, but at this size, he could ride as a passenger on Amicus's latest model comet broom. "Let's go," Bellatrix said coldly. She was always like this when her beloved Dark Lord was absent. Snape mounted his broom and followed her without delay. His stomach churned, and he felt nauseated. Tonight, there was a very real chance he would have to kill someone. They flew for almost an hour, passing over several Muggle towns, but Bellatrix didn't so much as glance in their direction. Their objective was clearly someone specific. Eventually, Bellatrix stopped mid-air, and Snape halted beside her, hovering while looking down at the landscape below. A large grassy clearing stretched out beneath them, with a stone path leading to a single expansive house. Even from this altitude, and in the night's shadows, the house's size was obvious. "Who lives in there?" Snape asked. "Our target," was all she said before beginning to descend. Yaxley found Snape's predicament amusing, chuckling loudly, but didn't give any explanation either. Snape could only hope the old man broke his hip during the landing. "The wards shouldn't be too strong. This family has been in decline for several generations," Bellatrix noted. "The last lord of the house dared to marry a half-blood with no standing. Disgusting, and not much different from choosing a mudblood. What a way to spit on your ancestors," Yaxley sneered. Then it dawned on Snape, this was not a Muggle household. They had come to attack a wizarding family, one that the Dark Lord had some disagreement with, no doubt about that. "Which family lives here? Do I not deserve to know at least that much?" Snape dared to ask, needing the answer. Was it someone from the Order, or maybe a Wizengamot member who had displeased their lord? "Blood traitors," Yaxley answered with a sneer. "This family used to follow the old customs," Bellatrix added, "but in the last generation they've begun to change their ways, and despite being a pure-blood family, they've chosen to remain neutral and ignore our Lord's invitation. Tonight, they'll have their last chance to correct things, or they will perish." "Who?" Snape insisted. Bellatrix glanced at Yaxley. "The Davis family," Yaxley answered, certain Bellatrix had already forgotten their name. "Davis?" Snape echoed. "Tracy Davis, one of his Slytherin students, a girl from 4th year. This is her family," he thought with dread. There was nothing he could do to save them from what was coming. Any rebellion tonight could result in his immediate death. "Can you breach the wards?" Bellatrix asked Yaxley. "Sure, but it may take a bit of time. My skills aren't what they used to be," the old man said. "We have time," Bellatrix spoke calmly as she looked toward the house, a glint of anticipation in her eyes. "We have time," she repeated. "Is everything okay? You've barely touched your dinner," Harry noted. Since they couldn't be seen together at the Yule Ball, he and Daphne had chosen to spend a relaxing evening in the Room of Requirement. "I'm just not very hungry." Daphne poked at a chicken thigh with her fork. "Dobby will be disappointed. He put a lot of effort into this meal," Harry teased. "Wait." She looked up at him with concern while almost dropping her fork. "Dobby made this?" Harry chuckled. "No, I was joking. Dobby's enthusiastic about cooking, but his sense of taste when it comes to human food is questionable at best." "Oh, thank Merlin." She shuddered, remembering the one time she had tried Dobby's cooking. "So, what's wrong then? If you don't want to stay here all night, we can go out. There's still an hour left before midnight. We could get changed and—" He trailed off, not particularly keen on going out, but not wanting to ruin her night either. Daphne smiled, appreciating his thoughtfulness. "Thanks, but it's not that. It's just, I don't know how to explain it." "Try," Harry suggested. Daphne thought for a moment. It's like this feeling, a sense that something terrible is going to happen. Like a premonition. I didn't know you had a gift for divination, Harry said, smiling. I don't. And divination is no longer a thing, remember? They removed the classes from everywhere. They said that the entire branch of magic was dead. Yes, Professor Silverbell believes it might be due to the fractures in the walls between alternate realities, making it impossible to predict any future outcome. Harry didn't fully understand divination other than it had nearly ruined his previous life. But the timing seemed too coincidental, prophecies going dark, seers losing their sight, just right when the convergences began happening. Perhaps diviners hadn't been seeing the future at all, but glimpsing into alternate realities, possible futures that might still come to pass, depending on certain choices. And now that the worlds were no longer connected, they had all gone blind. Well, I doubt it's that. I think it's… Wait. Daphne's face went pale and she nearly jumped from her chair. What's wrong? Harry's expression grew serious. Daphne wasn't one for overreactions, so whatever it was serious. I think someone's trying to break into my house, Daphne exclaimed. Are you connected to your wards? Harry asked, surprised. He thought only her father could monitor them. Daphne shook her head. I'm not. But at the end of the summer I set up a basic bloodguard perimeter around my house. It doesn't offer real protection, but it does alert me if it's breached, and it just triggered. She looked at him, her expression deeply worried. Harry immediately stood up, walked to one side of the room, and opened a black portal. He reached inside, and pieces of enchanted jewelry flew out, arranging themselves on his body. His goblin steel staff hovered by his side, and his black robes layered themselves under an even darker fabric. Harry, Astoria's there too, Daphne said, her voice tinged with fear. Let's go take a look. If anyone's trying to harm your family, I'll deal with them, Harry replied. Daphne pulled out her wand, her eyes narrowing. We'll deal with them, she corrected. It is done. A cruel grin appeared on Yaxley's face as he said that. Bellatrix took a small metallic object shaped like a pyramid and placed it on the ground. What is that? Snape asked, trying to avoid thinking about what they were going to do next. This is something our Lord prepared for us. She pressed her index finger against the tip of the pyramid. It was sharp enough to pierce her skin, and a few drops of her blood fell onto its metallic surface. The runes carved into the artifact began to shine with an eerie red light. Moments later, a wave of magic emerged from the pyramid and washed over them. Snape felt an immediate change in his surroundings. There was an added pressure that hadn't been there before. He glanced back at the small object. He wasn't well versed in runes to immediately identify the effects of a complex artifact like that, but given the current situation, something came to mind. Is that an anti-apparition ward? He finally asked. It's a portable blood ward created by the Dark Lord, Yaxley explained. It blocks any teleportation inside and outside the area. Apparition portkeys. Nothing works. Not even for us? Snape asked. It seemed like a flaw, but he didn't want to say it. Yaxley nodded. A small price to pay for something this potent, but it can quickly be deactivated by its user. It also works with blood, so even non-wizards can use it, as long as they have some magic in them. Bellatrix smiled. The Dark Lord made these especially for us, vampires. He is so thoughtful. Snape wanted to vomit again, seeing Bellatrix acting all sweet while she talked about that monster. Thankfully, he was a master of mental arts and could keep his expression impassive. Now it's all ready. Let's go hunt. Bellatrix licked her lips with anticipation. Wait, aren't we supposed to offer them one last chance to join our side? If Snape understood the assignment correctly, that was the point of today's mission. There were still several pure-blood families who had chosen to remain neutral, not siding against the Dark Lord or with him. I mean, they may not even know the Dark Lord is back, Snape added. It wasn't common knowledge. Even in the Ministry, many still believed that Minister Parkinson remained in charge of the country. Only a few knew that the man was already dead and what remained was nothing more than a literal puppet. Bellatrix's eyes sharpened as she turned to him. The blood traitors will have their chance to beg for mercy, but first, I'll have my fun." As she said this, she rushed toward the house, moving at an inhuman speed. Snape was taken off guard. They hadn't made any sort of plan. "Leave it." Yaxley brushed it off. "She always does these things herself. I was only brought along to help breach the wards. I'm too old for hunts anyway." While Snape was about to wonder about his role in all of this, they began to hear screams coming from inside the house. "She works quickly," Yaxley chuckled. "Isn't she going to kill them?" Snape asked. Yaxley shook his head. "She has a lot of control over her bloodlust, much more than any other vampire of her age. She's also much stronger than the others. You could say Bellatrix always had a gift for the dark arts." At that moment they saw someone being thrown out of a window. "We should get closer though. Make sure they don't do anything stupid," Yaxley said. As they approached, they found that the person on the ground was an old man, covered in blood. "Ugh." The old man grunted and coughed a few times before he tried to stand. "You may want to stay there for a bit, old-timer," Yaxley advised him. "Who?" The old man turned with difficulty to look at them. "You." His eyes moved over Yaxley, and then to Snape. "You're the potions professor of Hogwarts. And you don't recognize me? I should feel offended," Yaxley said. "I do recognize you too. You're one of the bastards who escaped from Azkaban. What are you doing in my house?" "I didn't escape. I was let go." And Yaxley pointed behind the old man. The wall was hit with tremendous force and exploded into pieces. As the dust settled, they saw Bellatrix walking out holding two people in her hands. It was a man and a woman, both around their late 30s, dressed in elegant clothes. Although now they were in rough shape, with torn clothes and injuries all over. She threw them next to the old man. "Graham, what have they done to you?" the old man exclaimed as he examined one of them. "Father," the younger man managed to sit up. "Margaret." He quickly went to check on his wife. She grunted in pain and opened her eyes. She was alive but badly injured. "I'm assuming this is the current Lord of House Davis and his mudblood wife." "Yes?" Yaxley asked. "Don't call my wife that," Lord Davis exclaimed. "Why are you attacking my family?" "We'll explain, but first," Bellatrix glanced at Snape. "Severus, kill the old man." "What?" Snape was surprised by the sudden request. "Wait, why?" Lord Davis demanded. "I know who you are," the old man looked at Bellatrix. "And I know who you serve, that pretender who called himself Dark Lord and was defeated by a baby." Bella frowned. "What did you say about my lord?" "Father, shut up. Please," Lord Davis begged. But it was too late. The old man was truly enraged. "Is that why you came here? You want my family to join that loser? The Davises have always remained neutral. We will never serve that piece of Snap! Bellatrix moved like lightning. In an instant she was behind the old man, picked him up with one hand and snapped his neck with ease. "No one talks about my lord like that," Bellatrix said coldly. "Father!" Lord Davis screamed. "Tesk!" Bella became annoyed. She'd been told to have Snake kill at least one of them as a show of loyalty to their side, but she had gone and done it herself. "Severus!" She glanced at the woman who was still lying on the ground, barely moving. "You're going to kill the mudblood? Where is my house?" Daphne looked around furiously. "Something's wrong," Harry said, just a second after they appeared. He had aimed his apparition much closer to the house than this, but they were in the middle of a field instead. "Wait, this is the stone road that leads home." Daphne followed it with her eyes, but it disappeared after a short distance. "Someone must have put a ward around the place, and it's blocking our view." Harry noticed that the image was distorted when looking ahead. It was clear that this was an improvised distraction. "Stand back, I'm going to take this down." Harry aimed his staff upward, but in the direction he remembered the house being. "Do you know how to remove wards?" Daphne asked. "I know at least one way." The green stones embedded in his staff began to shine as he channeled his magic through it. "Confringo?" A loud, fiery explosion blasted against the surface of the wards, momentarily revealing them. Daphne gasped. There really is a foreign protection around my house. This confirmed her fear that someone was attacking her family. I see you now. Harry poured much more power into the next spell, aiming to pierce the protection in one go. Fulgurous. Lighting emerged from the tip of his staff, forming a concentrated beam of light that shot forward. As the beam collided with the protections, it pierced through, opening a path. Greengrass Manor came into view shortly after. Oh no! Daphne could see fire burning in her house already, and part of it had been destroyed. The entire west wing appeared to be missing. A giant? Harry quickly spotted the culprit, as it was hard to miss. This was the largest giant he had seen in a while, and it appeared to be very busy destroying as much of the house as possible. Wait, Harry had to physically stop Daphne from running toward the house. Let me go, Harry. I have to find my family, Daphne snapped at him. There are 3 people standing by the front gate, and they've already noticed us. If you go there without caution, you may get killed. Harry warned her. His entrance wasn't exactly subtle, so of course they had noticed their arrival. Stay by my side, Harry said as he began to approach. Daphne knew he was right. Rushing into the house carelessly would only cause more problems. Her manor had many more defenses inside, and her father was no pushover. She was sure they were still fine since the attackers hadn't even gotten past the entrance. At the gate of the manor, the Carrow twins and Draco, who had been about to walk through the broken entrance, paused when they saw the blood wards being pierced. Are our wards down? Amicus asked. No, that spell only made a hole in the outer layer. It's already regenerating, his sister Alecto replied, being a bit more versed in this type of magic. So those 2 intruders are trapped then, Draco said, narrowing his eyes and trying to figure out who the 2 might be. Who goes there? This is a private party, Amicus shouted. Wait, that's Daphne? Why isn't she inside the house? Draco had expected to find her in the manor, not coming from outside. Maybe she left to do something, then felt someone breaking into her family home and came to check, Alecto said. It's not important right now, she's one of the targets. But who is that with her? Harry Potter, what is he doing here, and what's he doing with Daphne? Draco clenched his teeth, anger beginning to boil inside him. That's Draco Malfoy. Daphne finally recognized him as they got closer. His magic feels off. Harry tried to scan the area, searching for any hidden threats. He found none, but he did detect something else. Daphne! I found your family. Where are they? Are they okay? She asked nervously. I can sense their magic inside the house. I have no way to know their condition, only that they're alive, but we have no reason to believe they've been harmed yet. Those 3 were about to enter when we arrived, and the giant is only destroying the house. Daphne felt a massive weight lift from her shoulders. But with some of her worries gone, they were quickly replaced by anger. How dare they? She glared at the 3 individuals by the front gate. How dare they come here to harm my family? Harry continued forward, recognizing the 2 others beside Draco as the Carrow twins. 2 adult wizards, a giant, and Draco. This is going to be quick. Grom, get over here. We have guests. Amicus shouted at the giant, who was still holding a piece of the roof and hadn't even noticed Harry and Daphne's arrival, too busy enjoying the destruction. Huh? Grom walked back slowly, glancing at Harry and Daphne. Guests? Daphne? Draco called with a wide grin. Did you miss me? I came all the way here for you. In reality, she was only half the reason he had requested to join this raid. He also had a bone to pick with Lord Greengrass, who had rejected his family's offers of alliance so many times. Draco glanced Daphne up and down. It had been a while since he last saw her, and she had grown even more beautiful. At first he had been interested only in her family's assets and connections, but seeing her like this now, there was something else he wanted. Malfoy, how dare you attack my family? Daphne spat. Draco laughed. Tonight, I'm planning to do more than just get back at your traitorous family. I'm going to make you mine. Did he seriously say that? Daphne asked. Yes, I think he did. How do you want to handle this? Harry replied. I want to do it myself, Daphne said, looking determined. I'll leave Malfoy to you then. I'll manage the others. Be careful if you see a dagger, Harry warned her. He had had a chance to examine the curse on the one he recovered, along with Dumbledore. The curse was as bad as he thought. It had roots in necromancy, attacking the soul directly. While powerful protections could minimize the effects, without proper preparation, it would be a death sentence. The curse was designed to kill by removing the soul almost instantly and leaving the body as an empty shell, something akin to a meat puppet. I know, I'll be careful, Daphne reassured him. While Harry and Daphne were having their private conversation, the others were also deciding their next steps. What about the boy? Alecto Caro asked. They hadn't yet been told exactly what to do with the Potter family, though she was sure they'd all have to die sooner or later. The Potters had openly opposed the Dark Lord, after all. Kill him, capture him, I don't care. But Daphne is mine, Draco insisted. Oh ho? Good luck with that one, she looks fierce. Amicus taunted. You think I can't handle that witch? Draco huffed. Grom, the giant grumbled. Right, I called you over, Amicus said. Well, since you're already here, why don't you grab that boy? You can play with him or crush him immediately. It's fine in any case. Go have fun. My sister and I should go find the rest of the family. Yes, I'm a bit concerned about what other defenses Lord Greengrass might have hidden. This is a very old family, so don't lower your guard. Alecto added. Amicus shrugged. We've got time, and if things get too difficult, he glanced at Daphne, we'll use the girl for leverage. That'll draw Daddy and Mommy out. Not until I'm done with her, Draco said, impatient. His eyes were fixed on the beautiful blonde girl in front of him. Draco walked forward with determination until he was less than 10 feet away. He could clearly smell her perfume from here. Daphne, he growled. All he received from her was contempt. Daphne held her wand in her right hand. There's one thing I want to know from you. Draco raised an eyebrow, not expecting her to make any requests. Are you ready to give up? Because that would be very disappointing. The night Pansy and her family died, Daphne glared directly into Draco's eyes. Did you have anything to do with that? She knew how much he had hated Pansy and her father for breaking their engagement. That's what you wanted to ask? Draco chuckled, a wide grin spreading across his face. Yes, I'm the one who killed that bloody traitor, and you have no idea how good it felt. Harry had moved a short distance away to give Daphne some space. He didn't want to get in the way of what was coming next. He then noticed that the giant was eyeing him. I see. Daphne's face remained impassive, though her anger had never burned hotter. I should have guessed. She let the tip of her wand morph into a sharp edge and used it to cut open the index finger of her left hand. Draco's pupils dilated. He hadn't had a single drop of blood in a week, and he was thirsty. Daphne, he licked his lips, stepping closer. Daphne let her blood drip, but it never reached the ground. Instead, each drop floated in the air. You want blood? You can have it, she said. Blood continued to drip from her finger, each drop hovering in place. Draco began rushing for the blood. Draco, stop! Don't touch it. That's blood magic. Luckily, the Caro twins were paying attention and shouted a warning just in time. Draco was about to swallow one of the blood drops when he sensed something was wrong and backed away. As he did, the smooth crimson drop transformed into a sharp needle. Had it not been for his inhuman reflexes, he could have been seriously hurt. A vampire wouldn't die from having their brain pierced, but it would have left him defenseless long enough for her to finish him off. You witch! You tried to kill me, he shouted, enraged. Well, let's see. You killed a friend of mine, attacked my family home, and tried to force yourself on me. Daphne had to restrain herself from rolling her eyes. So yes, Malfoy, I am going to kill you for that. Draco scowled. I'm going to enjoy putting you in your place. He moved away so fast it almost looked as if he disappeared. Daphne knew she couldn't match a vampire's speed, so she didn't even try. She was done with her preparations. Draco appeared behind her, his hand moving at an impossible speed to grab her neck. But before he could reach her, some of the floating blood drops blocked his path. Reacting on their own, without Daphne's command, the blood needles attacked him. Draco twisted his body to dodge the needles. As he did, Daphne spun and slashed at him with a swift motion. Draco caught a quick glimpse of something shiny in her hand. Instead of her wand, she now held a thin silver blade. Tisk! Draco was growing frustrated. This was supposed to be an easy fight. Why was he having so much trouble with a mere human? He was stronger, faster, better. The silver blade swiped by as he moved his head to avoid it. I'll show you, he thought, clenching his fist. A good punch to her chest would remind her who was superior. But Draco was so focused on hurting her that he missed a single blood drop that moved toward his left eye. By the time he saw it, it was too late to avoid it completely. He twisted just enough to prevent the needle from piercing his eye, but it hit his cheek instead. Draco grunted in pain as the needle disappeared, absorbed into his flesh, and as this happened, a small, satisfied smile appeared on Daphne's face. Draco began to scream as the pain from before grew more severe. What's happening to him? Amicus glanced at Draco in concern. That witch is using blood magic. We have to help him before it's too late. Alecto said, pointing her wand at Daphne. Avada Kedavra. She felt a sharp pain shoot through her hand, forcing her to drop her wand, and she then saw the blood dripping from her palm. Don't interfere. Those two have something to settle, Harry said, having cast a piercing charm on Alecto's hand. Grom, kill that boy, Amicus gave the order to the giant immediately. Neither he nor his sister recognized Harry, assuming he was just another Hogwarts student not worth their attention. But now it was clear that had been a mistake. That boy! Alecto clutched her wounded hand, staring at Harry. She hadn't even seen him move or speak to cast a spell. It was as if the magic had come from nowhere. Meanwhile, as Daphne continued her fight, the giant Grom obeyed Amicus's command. The creature leaned forward and lifted his massive foot into the air, aiming to crush Harry with all his might. The foot, larger than the average car, descended upon Harry. Remaining calm, Harry raised his left hand, drawing a circular motion in the air. A black circle appeared above him, directly in the path of the giant's foot. It was difficult to see clearly in the darkness of night, but all of them noticed something strange had appeared. The giant sensed that the small wizard beneath him had done something, but he had no time to wonder what it was before his entire foot, and part of his leg, disappeared into the black hole. From the Carrow twins' perspective, it was truly bizarre. It looked like the giant's leg had simply vanished into thin air. Before they could guess what was happening, the foot reappeared, except now it was above the giant's own head, carrying all the force of his intended attack. Careful was all Amicus managed to yell before Grom's own foot collided with his head. The impact was tremendously loud, a testament to the giant's strength, which was now directed at himself. The giant groaned in pain but was not deterred. He prepared for a straight punch this time. The Carrow twins yelled at him to stop. There was clearly something wrong here, but the giant was too angry to listen. Org! Grom yelled as he brought down his fist upon Harry with all his might. He wanted to completely crush this human into a meat paste. Harry made another motion, and just like before, a large black hole appeared in front of him, intercepting the attack from the giant. The fist went through the hole and reappeared at the back of the giant's head. The impact was even louder than before, creating a shockwave that they could all feel from where they were standing. Grom groaned as his eyes rolled back and his enormous body began to collapse. Harry quickly sidestepped to avoid being crushed. The giant let out another grunt upon hitting the ground. He was still conscious, but dazed. With Grom now vulnerable, Harry positioned himself beside the giant's head, aiming the tip of his staff at the creature's temple. Terebra. The curse version of the piercing charm could be empowered beyond normal limits, and with the amount of magic Harry poured into it, even a dragon's scales would be punctured. Giants had a natural resistance to magic, but this curse pierced through with ease. No! Amicus cried. It had all happened so quickly, and they hadn't expected this. For a moment he was certain that the boy would be crushed without a chance to fight back. Now, barely a minute later, he watched the giant being put down like a rabid beast. Who is he? Alecto muttered in shock. It was obvious now that this wasn't some ordinary Hogwarts student. Even a trained aura wouldn't have brought down a giant so effortlessly. And Grom was far from an average giant. He was the eldest son of the Giant King, one of the largest and strongest giants alive. What do we do? Amicus was now seriously considering retreating. But to escape, they'd need to deactivate the anti-apparition wards they'd put in place. These blood magic variants were incredibly potent, though they also prevented their escape. They'd never had a reason to consider fleeing until now. Both Carrows had the same thought and glanced at the metallic pyramid they'd set a few feet away. I'll create a dist. Amicus's next words were drowned out by Draco Malfoy's blood-curdling screams. Ah, what did you do? Draco yelled at Daphne. Painful, isn't it? She said, holding her wand in front of her. Argentum Gladio. The wand transformed into a silver blade. Stop! Get it out! Get it out of me! He screamed. Daphne made a sweeping gesture with the sword, sending more drops of her blood toward him. In his panicked state, he couldn't dodge a single one, and each drop pierced his body. Draco's screams grew louder as he collapsed, unable to control his spasms. Daphne stepped closer to him. My blood is tearing you apart from the inside. Ironic, isn't it? Doing this to a vampire? A regular human would already be dead, but Daphne knew a vampire wouldn't die from this. She just wanted him to suffer. Stop! Please? Draco managed to stammer as red tears streamed from his eyes. Daphne raised her blade above his chest. Draco was now defenseless. Pansy had her flaws as a person, but she was my friend, and she didn't deserve to be murdered by an egotistical monster like you. She took a breath, her expression unreadable. I hope she can see this somehow. Without hesitation, she brought the blade down. Draco. Alecto screamed. She wanted to do something, but it was too late to save him. Sis, come on. Amicus shouted with urgency in his tone while he pointed at the warding device that was on the ground, just a few feet away from their position. Alecto understood her brother immediately. They had to escape, and for that she needed to grab the device and turn it off. Bombarda! Amicus aimed his wand at the ground, casting the blasting charm. It struck the stone path leading to the house, causing an explosion that sent debris and dust everywhere. Amid the chaos, Alecto rushed to grab the small device, which was only a few feet away. Do you have it? Amicus asked with panic. They could not waste a single second, but his sister was not responding. On top of that, while the dust was still settling, the visibility was very low, so he could no longer see her. Wait, Alecto said after a few more seconds passed. Alecto, bloody hell. Amicus already had his portkey in hand, but it was useless until she disabled the wards they'd set up. I can't find it, Alecto finally said. She was on her knees, feeling the ground with her left hand, squinting against the dust but unable to see much. She was certain the device had been right there a moment ago, before her brother used the spell. Did the Bombarda blast push it away? She wondered. But it shouldn't have. The explosion was too distant to affect it. Suddenly a powerful gust of wind hit them. Let me save you the trouble, said Harry. As the dust cleared, Alecto realized that the device was gone. Where is it? She exclaimed. Alecto. Amicus shouted, and she saw he was pointing at Harry. You were looking for this? Harry held the device in his palm. It looked like you wanted it back, so I assumed it was important. Give that back, Alecto demanded. Maybe if you answer something first, Harry said. Who else is being attacked tonight? Amicus and his sister exchanged a look. Amicus, she nodded. They seemed to reach a decision. Amicus pointed his wand at Harry. Avada Kedavra, a green bolt of magic shot out of his wand, aimed directly at Harry. If there was one spell Harry had learned to defend against, it was this one. He'd lost count of how many times Death Eaters had tried to use it against him. He conjured a large rock in front of him, letting the spell collide with it. Chunks of the rock shattered, but a significant portion remained floating in the air, shielding Harry. With a light tap of his staff, he sent the rock hurtling toward Amicus like a cannonball. The rock struck him squarely in the chest, sending him flying back until he crashed against the manor's entrance wall. He was still alive, but just barely. Blood dribbled from his mouth, and his internal injuries were severe. "Brother." Alecto stood up and rushed to his side. "Save yourself the trouble and don't do anything stupid," Harry said coldly. "You can't win and you can't escape. Just answer my question." "I won't ask a third time. Who else are you targeting tonight?" "Alecto, we have to." Amicus managed to lift his head to look at her. "I know." Alecto took his left hand, placing it atop his right arm, then did the same with her own. Harry watched closely, wary of any tricks. The spot where they placed their hands was the soul brand. He briefly wondered if they were trying to call for reinforcements. It quickly became clear that wasn't the case. Daphne, watching from a short distance away, called out, "Harry, what are they?" Suddenly, the Caro twins began making painful choking sounds. "What's happening to them?" Daphne asked. "This isn't of my doing," Harry replied, narrowing his eyes as black lines appeared beneath their robes, spreading across their necks and faces. The sounds continued for a few more seconds, then abruptly stopped as the twins fell silent and motionless. "Are they dead?" Daphne asked in shock. Harry approached cautiously. The duo was clearly dead, he had no doubt about that. Using the lower part of his staff, he lifted Alecto's sleeve to reveal her right arm. "So it can be used like this too." There were black vein-like lines spreading from the dark brand, extending over her body like poison. They hadn't been calling for reinforcements after all. The Caro twins had decided to end their lives once they realized they couldn't win or escape. Their fear of what their lord would do to them for failing the mission was higher than anything else. A quick death was preferable. "Daphne?" They both turned toward the sound. Someone was peeking out from one of the windows. "Mother," Daphne called immediately. "By Merlin. Are you okay?" Lord Greengrass's head appeared beside his wife's. "Daphne." Astoria's head popped up below them. "We're fine. You can come out, it's safe now," Daphne said with a beaming smile. "They're safe." A huge weight seemed to lift off her shoulders as she spoke. She then turned to Harry, running over and throwing her arms around him. "Thank you," she said. "None of this would have been possible without him." "No problem," Harry replied. "And thank you for letting me deal with Draco myself. I needed that." Harry tapped her back. "I knew you could handle it." She leaned closer, whispering in his ear, "And you can remove the protective charm you placed on me now." Harry flinched. "You noticed that?" "I was just worried he'd use that cursed dagger." "It's not that I don't trust your abilities," Harry assured her. Daphne caressed his cheek. "I know, I'm not angry. It makes me happy to know you were worried about me." She turned to look at the bodies of the Death Eaters. "Do you think they're attacking other families tonight?" "It seems likely. It wouldn't make sense to just attack your family, and if they had, they'd have sent more than just these 4. But they're all dead now. You told me before that you could speak with spirits." Daphne trailed off. "Yes, I'll call them." Harry was about to move closer to the Caro twins when her family came rushing out of the manor. Daphne, her mother Celine, was the first to reach her. She almost tripped over the 2 bodies. "It's the Caro twins. Those ungrateful bastards." Sebastian Greengrass gritted his teeth. "We helped them out after their Dark Lord disappeared, and this is how they repay us." "Astoria, close your eyes. You shouldn't be seeing this," Celine said to her younger daughter. Astoria didn't seem that bothered. "It's fine, I've seen dead people before." "Wait, what?" Celine exclaimed. "Are any of you hurt?" Daphne asked with concern. "When I saw that the giant had destroyed the West Wing." "He did what?" Celine hadn't noticed that yet. She now saw it. "My manor." Sebastian glared at Grom. "That's an unusually big giant. No wonder the house shook like that." "You didn't see them?" Daphne asked. Her father negated with his head. "The moment I felt the wards break, I took your mother and sister to the safe room. We tried to use the emergency port keys, but they wouldn't work," Celine added. "Right. About that." Harry held up a small metallic object. "This is likely the culprit." Celine moved closer to examine the object. "A portable ward, may I?" "Go ahead. See if you can disable it. We won't be able to leave until it's off," Harry replied. Oh my, there's blood magic in this. Some powerful magic too, Celine gasped. Let me see. Daphne leaned in to take a closer look. Lord Greengrass suddenly seemed to realize something. Hold on, if this thing was active, how did the two of you get inside? Harry made a hole in the blood wards with some kind of… What was that? Daphne asked. He did. What? Sebastian exclaimed. It was a variant of my lightning sorcery. It creates a more focused beam of energy, Harry explained. Whoa, someone got stabbed with a sword, Astoria said nonchalantly while pointing at the body on the ground. Don't play with weight. Is that Draco Malfoy? Celine was about to scold her when she recognized the boy on the ground with a silver sword embedded in his chest. Malfoy? Sebastian checked the body, his usual stoic face contorting with anger. The Malfoys were involved in this affront too. Why am I not surprised? Father. He was just a pawn. They were all sent here by the Dark Lord, Daphne explained as she approached Draco's body. The Dark Lord sent them. Sebastian felt goosebumps. To her family's shock, Daphne pulled the silver sword from Draco's chest, transforming it back into her wand before storing it, and just as she did this, the body of the vampire turned into dust. Daphne, did you kill him? Celine asked in disbelief. Well, Daphne wasn't sure how to respond. Daphne. Her father stood before her with a stern expression. Yes? She wasn't sure if her father was angry or disappointed. He put a hand on her shoulder. You killed a Malfoy. Yes, father. I am so proud of you, Lord Greengrass's rare smile made it clear he meant it. Wait, you're proud? Daphne tilted her head in surprise. Sebastian, that's a terrible thing to say to your daughter. We should set a good example, Celine frowned. But it's a Malfoy. If I knew who killed the father, I'd send them a bottle of my finest fire whiskey, Sebastian replied. Daphne gave Harry a sidelong glance. I've got it, Celine said excitedly. She had been tampering with the device the whole time, and she finally managed to shut it down. With the magic gone, everyone could feel the difference. The air seemed cleaner. You shouldn't stay here much longer, Harry advised, gesturing at the bodies. When these guys fail to report back, the Death Eaters will likely send reinforcements. Oh no, Celine murmured. Sebastian looked pensive. He's right. If the Dark Lord sent them, they won't give up easily. Where can we go then? The cabin in France, perhaps? Celine suggested. We could go to Harry's house, Astoria proposed. Tori, we can't just impose on someone else, Celine said. No, she's right. You may not be safe in your other properties either. It is likely that the Death Eaters already have all of your addresses. Potter Manor would be secure, Harry replied. And the other houses barely have any defenses. They are just meant for short vacations, Daphne pointed out. Let's go to the Potters. Celine raised an eyebrow, glancing at her daughter. I think I know why you want to go there. Lord Greengrass looked at Harry. No offense, Harry, but how can we be sure they won't attack your manor next? If they can find it, they'll try, Harry replied. Then how can you assure me my family will be safe there? Sebastian pressed. Harry met his gaze. Because it's under my protection. Sebastian saw no hesitation in Harry's eyes. That's what I wanted to hear. So, it seems we'll be intruding on your family for a while. I hope James and Lily won't mind. Celine said, Please, that manor is big enough to host 5 families. Go pack your things and come back here. I'll have my house elf take you there, Harry told them. But don't take too long, he added. While the Greengrass family went inside to gather their belongings, Harry called Dobby and explained his next task. Then, it was time to turn his attention elsewhere. Harry's eyes scanned the corpses. There was no point in calling Draco. He'd already tested calling on Rabasta and Lestrange, and his ability didn't seem to work on vampires. Perhaps the theories about vampires losing their souls were true. Let's see. Speak to me, Amicus, Caro. The green mist began to form before him. Are you calling upon the spirits of the dead? Daphne had only seen this once and didn't fully understand how it worked. Harry nodded. The Stone of Resurrection gives one the ability to speak with the dead. I just call their name and their soul will appear before me. That's incredible. Daphne watched as the green mist took the shape of Enika's Caro in front of her. The best part is that they lose the ability to lie. A spirit summoned by this power will always tell the truth, Harry explained. All of a sudden, as the form neared completion, the spirit of Amicus let out a painful cry and began to vanish again. What? Harry frowned deeply. He'd seen this happen before. What's happening to him? Why is he disappearing so soon? Daphne asked. His soul is damaged. I can't call damaged or broken souls, Harry said, clenching his fists. They couldn't have known he had this ability when they chose to end their lives in this way. His soul is damaged? You mean? Daphne glanced for a moment at the two corpses. Their skin was still covered in the black lines created by the cursed mark. Is it because of the mark? Like a side effect? They used the soul brand to end their lives. The brand. Shit. Harry cursed. There was no way they could have known this would damage their souls, or they might have chosen a different method. No one in their right mind would do such a thing if they were aware of the consequences. Harry? Daphne looked at him with concern. It's useless. I won't be able to get anything from them, Harry finally said. What about Draco? He died by my sword, Daphne suggested. Harry shook his head. Draco had become a vampire. It wouldn't work on him. When someone becomes one of them, their soul is destroyed in the process. They have eternal life here, but there is no afterlife for them. What now, then? She couldn't think of anything else at the moment. Do you really think they are attacking other families? I have no doubt, but there are many possible choices. The only one he was sure of was his own. If anyone had tried to approach the Potter Manor, he would have known immediately. Traitors? Daphne muttered. Harry looked at her. That's what Draco called us. He said we were blood traitors. According to my father, that's what the followers of the Dark Lord like to call pure-blood families who didn't agree with their ideals. Daphne said. The moment she mentioned the words blood traitor, one family specifically came to his mind, one that Draco used to love calling that. The Weasleys, Harry muttered. What? Daphne couldn't quite hear what he said. Harry snapped back into action. Daphne, as soon as your family returns, have Dobby take you to my manor. Don't waste time and stay there until I return. Harry, what do you get? Before she could finish her sentence, he was gone. Ha ha ha, look at them go, Rodolphus chuckled, as he watched the Inferi cause chaos inside the old family home. They could all hear the screams of horror very clearly. Master, shouldn't we go too? A gorgeous blonde woman stood at his side and asked. I don't know if a dozen Inferi are going to be enough to do the job. An equally beautiful brunette was on his other side. Rodolphus glared at his two vampire brides and smiled. He had created them from muggles just 1 year after his transformation, and they had rarely left his side since. Since his wife Bellatrix barely paid him any attention, he had no choice but to resort to this. But he had no complaints with these two. He moved his hand and grabbed onto the ample chest of the brunette, who moaned loudly in response to the sudden touch. You think I don't know what you really want? You just want to go in there to suck them dry. You greedy bitches. The blonde chuckled. You know us too well, Master. Please, Master, we haven't had a drop of blood in 2 days already. The brunette pouted. Rodolphus groaned. An average vampire would only need blood once a week if they fed properly, but these two would always complain if they didn't feed every other day. Calling them greedy was an understatement, to say the least. A stern expression appeared on Rodolphus's face. Do not forget, we didn't come here for fun. We are here to make an example of these blood traitors. We need to make them suffer. Do I make myself clear? The two vampire brides composed themselves and answered quickly and in unison. Yes, Master. Rodolphus's expression softened a bit when he saw them obey. After we're done here, we can visit some muggle house and have our fill. The two women smiled brightly. Thank you. Master is the best. The heart-warming scene between the three vampires stood in stark contrast to the screams of horror coming from the Weasley house. Soon enough, one of the Inferi went flying out of a window and landed close to Rodolphus. Very well, We'll go assist these poor creatures. Our Lord will be disappointed if we allow those traitors to destroy his creations." The two brides were very excited at the prospect. They rarely got to hunt wizards and witches. He walked over to the undead creature. It was missing an arm but was still moving. The inferi stood back up and ran once more inside the house. Rodolphus let out a chuckle. "That's the spirit. Let's go hunt," he shouted with excitement. Once the three vampires joined the fray, things went badly for the Weasleys very quickly. Arthur was currently working in France, as well as the three eldest ones. The only ones present were Molly, George, Fred, Ron, and Ginny. They put up as much of a fight as they could, but it ended badly. One of the boys was punched so hard he was sent through the house wall and outside. "George!" Molly screamed before running to him. Ron hadn't even practiced a single offensive spell other than the disarming charm, so there was little he could do other than try to punch one of the vampire brides, who promptly grabbed him. Ginny did manage to injure the other bride with a well-aimed reducto that hit her shoulder. "Ah, it hurts, you bitch!" The blonde bride screamed before launching herself at Ginny and slashing her chest with sharp nails, leaving deep cuts that bled profusely. "You are dead." "Ginny, no!" Fred attempted to help his sister, only to be stopped by Rodolphus, who grabbed him by the neck and disarmed him. "Let's go outside, shall we?" He commanded the inferi to surround them, ensuring no one would escape. While Rodolphus dragged Fred, his brides did the same with Ron and Ginny. "Let me go," Ron yelled. "Let me gork." The brunette bride clenched her hand around his neck and applied pressure. "Silence. Proper food doesn't speak," she snapped. As they left the house, they found Molly a short distance away from the house, kneeling next to her son and crying. "No, George." Rodolphus groaned. "Is he dead already? Humans are so fragile. He was supposed to make them suffer, but now he had lost one. And where are the rest? There were supposed to be 3 or 4 more, right?" he added. "George?" Fred struggled to free himself from Rodolphus's grip. "George? Ah. Oh well?" Rodolphus threw Fred close to where his mother was, making him fall face first. "Let's deal with these ones, and we'll find the others later. I'm sure the Dark Lord will understand that this is not my fault," Rodolphus said. After all, he could not have expected the entire family to be at home during the attack. It is not like they had planned this for weeks. Their lord had decided to do this out of nowhere, although Rodolphus had an idea as to why that was. "Master, I want to eat this one, please." The blonde bride lifted Ginny slightly, making the redhead girl groan in pain. Rodolphus raised an eyebrow. "What did I say before?" "But she hurt me, look." She gestured to her shoulder. The damage from Ginny's spell had taken out almost half her shoulder, though it was already regenerating due to her vampire healing. "You'll be fine," Rodolphus told his bride. "Stop complaining. She also damaged my favorite dress." "Enough," Rodolphus shouted. His patience had reached its limit. "They will die when I say so. You killed my son." Molly turned to face Rodolphus, wand in hand. Rodolphus didn't feel threatened and just grinned at her. "I'd drop the wand if I were you." His left hand landed on Ginny's head, held fast by his bride. Molly's eyes widened when she saw her daughter's condition. "Ginny?" Her daughter was in bad shape. The wound inflicted by the vampire had caused some massive bleeding, and she looked to be barely conscious. "You're going to lose more than one child if you don't behave." Rodolphus increased his grip on Ginny's head, making her scream. "Stop, please." Molly hurriedly dropped her wand. "Let her go, please. Just tell me what you want." "That's more like it." Rodolphus nodded and released the girl. "Blood traitors like you belong on the ground, begging." "Master?" asked the bride, holding Ron. Their master hadn't shared his exact plans for the family, so she was unsure what to do now that they were at his mercy. Rodolphus appeared to be thinking for a moment. He'd already decided to kill them all, regardless of what they did or said. The only thing he was considering now was how to do it. Perhaps impaling them would be appropriate. That would certainly send a message. "Don't you think?" he asked. The brunette bride chuckled. "I would love to see that." She dug her nails into Ron's face, making him groan. "Master, this one won't last long." The blonde bride watched in dismay as Ginny continued to bleed out. What a waste! She licked her lips. If only her master allowed her to feed. Right, Rodolphus decided he would start with Ginny before it was too late. What kind of monsters are you? What has my family done to you? Fred shouted in rage. Molly continued to beg, but it fell on deaf ears, as Rodolphus had no plans to show them any mercy. Monster, huh? I've been called that many times before, even when I was still human. I'll take it as a compliment, Rodolphus said with a wide grin. He wanted to enjoy this longer, but unfortunately he didn't have all night. Just as he was about to turn towards Ginny, he felt something strange. It was quickly followed by something more intense. Ugh! Rodolphus nearly fell to his knees. It was as if someone had punched him incredibly hard in the chest. Master? Master, what's wrong? The two vampire brides became immediately concerned. I just felt like, wait a moment. He suddenly realized what it was. He looked toward the spot where he'd left a small device. Since he was the one who activated the blood anti-apparition wards, he was connected to it, so the feeling could only mean one thing. Someone is trying to break. At that moment the device shattered into pieces, and Rodolphus felt as though he'd been kicked by a giant. A new figure appeared before them. Finally, Harry said before he began to assess the situation. 1 second. Am I too late? The first thing Harry noticed was the intense smell of blood. His sharp green eyes scanned the surroundings, trying to make sense of the situation in the shortest time possible. 2 seconds. 3 vampires were looking at him, but he did not recognize them. 2 young-looking women and 1 elegantly dressed man with dark hair. His eyes were drawn for a moment to the figure on the ground. Fred? He saw Molly kneeling beside one of the twins while the other lay motionless. 3 seconds. He couldn't detect any magic from the one lying down, which meant he was already dead. Where are the rest? His mind was racing. 4 seconds. His eyes snapped back to the vampires and noticed that the 2 female ones were holding something. Ron? He was hurt but still alive, his neck gripped tightly by the brunette vampire. 5 seconds. Harry's eyes widened. Ginny? The brunette vampire was grasping the familiar girl by the neck. She was bleeding. Her magic felt weak, almost completely faded. That was why he hadn't noticed her at first, and she appeared to be only half conscious. Ginny, Harry muttered. 6 seconds. This scenario was so familiar to him that memories of the past began to rush to the front of his mind. That day he had found his wife lying in a pool of blood when he returned home from working at the ministry. She was barely alive, left with just a whisper of life in her. Voldemort had wanted Harry to find her like that, to watch her die in front of him. Just as this Ginny was dying now. Who is this? Rodolphus asked, his yellow eyes scanning Harry's still figure. 7 seconds. No, not again. Something inside him snapped. The idea of failing once more was the one thing he feared most. Ginny and all his friends dying in front of him, the world being destroyed. Is your fault? The inner voice that he had heard for countless years came back to him. Inside Harry's body, a tremendous amount of magic raged, ready to be unleashed at any moment. He always kept it controlled to avoid harming others. The 9 Arkstones embedded in 9 pieces of magic jewelry began to glow with an eerie blue light, releasing their magic without Harry's command. His subconscious had activated them along with everything else within him. Every offensive tool he had prepared was now ready to obliterate his enemies. 8 seconds. In a flash of rage, all the restraints he'd placed on himself were gone. Master, what a... The blonde vampire bride holding Ginny was interrupted by an explosion. A surge of magic from the activation of the 9 Arkstones array erupted in front of them. Magic was present in such concentration that it was completely visible by the naked eye. It was moving so violently that it almost felt as if a tornado had suddenly come to life right in front of them. As the last deadly halo activated, Harry's body was entirely enveloped in thick darkness, leaving only his bright green eyes, which quickly shifted to the same shade of blue as the magic surrounding him. 9 seconds. Rodolphus was still trying to make sense of the situation amid the pain he was feeling. He had no idea who this wizard was, but the fact that he'd just shattered a blood ward crafted by his lord, and that he could see the wizard's magic swirling visibly, did nothing but signal danger to him. His instincts screamed at him to get away. Fortunately, the destruction of the blood wards meant he could escape. Like his brother, Rodolphus had access to 2 emergency port keys, one around his neck and another in his right pocket. This meant abandoning his 2 brides, but the decision was made instantly. 10 seconds. Rodolphus reached for the pocket of his trousers. The vampire brides felt a tremendous pressure bearing down on them as Harry unleashed his magic. They saw only a pair of blue eyes in front of them, but fear had already begun to creep in. "Master! Master!" They both called with desperation, not realizing their master had already decided to leave them behind. 11 seconds. The pressure the 3 vampires felt only grew stronger, like a massive stone pressing down on them. None of them realized this was caused not only by the magic in the air but by what Harry was doing with it. Rodolphus's fingertips reached the round stone that was the portkey. All he needed now was to speak the activation word, and he'd vanish for good. His lips parted, and he began to speak. 12 seconds. Despite his temporary loss of control and the sudden release of magic, Harry's mind stayed sharp enough to know exactly what to do. His magic washed over the area, touching every individual present, including the dozen in fairy surrounding the Weasleys. After taking a short moment to connect with his targets, Harry let his power do the rest. Like a faucet, turned fully open, all that energy surged into their bodies. All of his magic and rage went into them. Even for magical beings like vampires, there was a limit to how much they could contain before it became deadly. 13 seconds. By the time they realized what was happening, it was too late. The inferi collapsed like stringless puppets, only for their corpses to explode into hundreds of pieces moments later. But it was the vampires who bore the brunt of the attack. Harry poured every last drop of magic from the 9 Arkstones array into them. They didn't have time to feel pain before they were reduced to dust. The world appeared to be moving in slow motion. As the dust from the vampires lingered in the air, Harry saw Ginny's body falling. Without a second thought, he moved forward and caught her. Her face was as pale as ivory, and she didn't appear to be breathing. He knew she was only moments away from being completely gone. "Ginny!" Molly's stupor broke as she saw a shadowy figure holding her daughter. Harry was still completely cloaked in his death visage. His robes were darker than night itself, giving him a terrifying appearance. "Let my daughter go, you fiend!" Molly cried. She had no idea why this creature had killed the vampires and then grabbed Ginny, but without a wand, her fear was still no match for her determination. Harry glanced down at himself. When did I? He didn't remember summoning the death robes, but that didn't matter right now. He willed the robes away, and the Weasleys quickly recognized him. "Harry?" Molly said, her face a mask of pure shock. What is happening?" Her eyes darted back to her daughter. "She's still alive, but barely," Harry replied. A faint trace of magic lingered within her. However, he was a lot more prepared this time. "I'm not letting you die on me again." Next to his right hand, a small black void appeared, and Harry pulled a vial from within. Molly stared at the small crystal vial, wondering where it came from and what was inside. Before she could even ask, Harry opened it and poured the contents down Ginny's throat. The effects were immediate for all to see. "She's healing," Fred exclaimed, coming to his mother's side to see. They witnessed as the deep gash across Ginny's chest and belly was closing quickly, not even leaving a faint scar. "Harry, what potion was that? What did you give Ginny?" Molly moved closer but didn't try to take Ginny from his arms. "Phoenix tears, 3 of them," Harry said as he continued to move and summoned 2 more vials. These were different from the first one. Their contents were completely red. Ginny began to make faint sounds, her eyes moving slightly. Molly gasped. "Ginny, her wounds are healed," Harry noted, "but she's lost too much blood." He opened one of the red potions and carefully gave it to her. "That's blood-replenishing potion," Fred noted. "I had to drink a few of those after my Quidditch accident in my 2nd year." As Harry gave her the second potion, colour began to return to Ginny's face. "Here." Harry handed Ginny to her mother, who was relieved to take her daughter into her arms. "She'll be fine now." "Harry." Molly looked at him with a soft expression. "I have so many questions, but for now let me just say thank you. You saved my family." "Not all of you." Harry's gaze fell on George's body. "George," Fred murmured, his eyes welling with tears. "Wait, are you Fred?" Harry asked, realizing his mistake. For some reason, he had immediately assumed that the same twin had died again, but apparently fate had different plans this time. Fred nodded. "Yeah, I am. I'm fine too, by the way." Ron managed to pull himself up despite a bleeding lip and bruised ribs. "Ron, come here." Molly pulled him into a hug, still holding Ginny close. "Why did they attack us?" "I don't understand," Ron said. "Were those really vampires?" Fred asked. "They were followers of the Dark Lord," Harry replied. "What? But wasn't he gone?" Ron exclaimed. "Didn't Neville defeat him? He's back?" Fred looked at his mother, noticing her lack of surprise. "You and Dad knew about this, didn't you?" He and George had overheard talk of the Order but never knew the exact purpose. Molly nodded. "He returned recently, but has stayed hidden so far." She turned to Harry. "Is that why they attacked us tonight? Is this our fault?" Harry shook his head. "I doubt it. They're probably targeting every wizard family they consider blood traitors. Basically, anyone who didn't join the Dark Lord is now in danger of becoming a target for his anger." "So we weren't the only ones they went after?" Fred asked. "No." Harry glanced at the house. It had taken some damage but was still standing. "You can't stay here. Gather what you need. I'll take you to my family home. It's safe. Others will come to find their fallen comrades." "We're going to stay in that giant place?" Ron asked. "What about George?" Fred glanced at his brother. "We'll bring him too. I can place him in a stasis charm, and you can give him a proper funeral once the family's all together," Harry suggested. He had a lot of experience with these proceedings. "But we need to hurry. This place isn't safe anymore." "He's right," Molly agreed. She rose to her feet. "Can you hold her a bit longer?" She handed Ginny back to Harry, reluctant to lay her on the cold ground. "Of course." Harry held her carefully. "Come on, boys, let's grab our things." Molly was about to rush into the house when she seemed to remember something. "Arthur, he's supposed to be back tomorrow morning, and what if my other sons come to visit?" "You can reach Arthur through the flow, but don't tell him where you're going. Some of Voldemort's followers may have compromised the network. Just warn him not to come here, and I'll pick him up tomorrow," Harry advised her. "My house has an owlery. You can send messages to Percy, Charlie, and Bill." Molly nodded and gave Harry a long look. "It is you, isn't it?" she said softly. "Dumbledore mentioned help would come from someone young but didn't reveal who." Harry nodded in acknowledgement. Since his house elf was likely still occupied helping the Greengrass family, Harry personally brought the Weasleys into his home. He took them two at a time, and as he reappeared with George's unconscious body, the front door of his manor opened. "Oh dear, what do we have here? Molly, is that you?" Lily Potter had come to investigate after Mipsy, the family house elf, had warned her about people at the door. "Lily, hi," Molly said, with a weary smile, holding her unconscious daughter Ginny in her arms. "Sorry to bother you like this." Lily took in their appearances and could immediately tell they'd had a terrible night. Dobby had arrived just minutes earlier, informing her about the attacks, so she wasn't entirely surprised until she noticed George. "Harry, were they also—" "Oh no," Lily gasped as she saw George. "Is he—" Harry nodded solemnly. "The house isn't safe anymore." "Then come in, all of you. We have more than enough room." Lily opened the door wide, waving them inside without a second thought. "Is anyone in need of medical attention?" she asked, taking in their condition. "Normally I'd suggest rushing to St. Mungo's, but it may not be safe." "I know," Molly agreed grimly. At this point, no one knew how far Voldemort's influence spread. The hospital could already have spies among the staff, ready to watch for them, especially after tonight. "Mipsy," Lily called and the elf appeared. "Please prepare the East Wing for the Weasleys." at least 3 rooms. While Mipsy went to work, Lily led them into a cozy, smaller dining hall. You can leave your things here for now and let me take a look at any injuries. I'm no professional healer, but I've fixed my fair share of wounds. My husband James doesn't like hospitals, yet he was always coming home injured when he first became an aura, so I've had plenty of practice, she assured them. Molly laid Ginny on one of the sofas, then turned to her other children. Fred, are you hurt? Fred shook his head. Nothing serious. Not like. His gaze drifted to George, sorrow in his eyes. Harry stepped aside with Fred, drawing his wand. He conjured a beautifully decorated coffin, sturdy enough to last a month, and placed George carefully inside. This will hold for about a month. You'll need a permanent one before that, but thank you, Harry. Molly hugged him tightly. You've done so much for our family. Lily smiled as she watched. I'll fetch some potions and clean clothes in case anyone wants to change. I'll let you all rest, Harry said, glancing at his mother, and she nodded knowingly. The main hall, she told him. Harry! Daphne threw her arms around him the moment he opened the doors to the hall. You left so suddenly, I was worried. I'm fine, Daphne. Just a few more vampires and inferi. Nothing too serious, he said, trying to reassure her. That sounds very serious, Lord Greengrass commented with a raised eyebrow. Where did you go? Daphne said that other families might have been attacked too, Lady Celine Greengrass asked. At the very least, the Weasleys were attacked, Harry replied. The Weasleys, Sebastian Greengrass repeated while trying to make sense of the situation. That's where you went? Are they okay? Daphne asked with concern. Most of them are, but George Weasley is dead. I was too late to. Harry's voice trailed off. Oh no. Celine covered her mouth, horrified. Poor boy. Daphne hugged him tightly. I'm so sorry. That damn Dark Lord. May Merlin curse him to death. Sebastian Greengrass spat angrily. Is Ginny okay? Astoria ventured to ask. She's just sleeping for now, Harry assured her. Did you bring them here as well? Celine asked. They're resting in the East Wing Hall for now, Harry nodded. Master Harry Potter. Dobby appeared beside him, looking elated. Did Dobby do well? Dobby brought all the greens here. It's Greengrass. Sebastian didn't why he felt the need to correct the house elf. Harry grinned. Yes, Dobby, you did great. You brought them here just as I asked. Dobby beamed, but Harry continued. Could you do one more thing tonight? I need you to prepare a couple of rooms for them. Oh, there's no need for that, Celine interjected. We could sleep on the couches here. We have plenty of spare rooms for everyone, Harry assured her. And as long as this war continues, it isn't safe for any of you to leave this place. It's best you all get comfortable. Does that mean I can live here with Lyra? Astoria asked, brightening at the thought. What? No? We can't stay here forever. I have obligations to fulfill, and Sebastian began, his words quick and uncertain. Father, please, Daphne said softly, placing a calming hand on his arm. Sebastian, Celine reasoned gently, let's wait until things have settled a bit, then we can think more clearly about what to do. What harm is there in that? And it won't be forever, Harry added confidently. If things go according to plan, this will be over within a few months. A few months? Sebastian asked, clearly skeptical. How is that possible? The Dark Lord is still in hiding, sending his followers to pick off his enemies one by one. This could drag on for years. We don't even know how many followers he has amassed while out of the country. He could have an army for all we know. It won't drag for years, no matter what he had done or what preparations he has. Harry said firmly, because there's at least one enemy he'll want to kill in person, and that's where we will get him. The house feels busy today, Victoria observed as she entered the kitchen. Despite its massive size, the space was bustling with activity. Mipsy and Lily were hard at work preparing breakfast for everyone. You didn't hear anything last night? Harry asked. With 2 families arriving late at night, there must have been a lot of noise, yet Victoria seemed completely oblivious. Victoria shrugged, disinterested, as she calmly ate her breakfast. Holly, on the other hand, was thrilled by the lively atmosphere in the house. The little girl, however, remained blissfully unaware of the heavy tension in the air. The previous night had been devastating for both families, but it was undeniably worse for the Weasleys. Harry even made another trip after talking with the Greengrass family. He went to check on Luna and her father. He already knew they were okay since he had stopped the attack on the Weasleys. There was no one left to go after the Lovegoods that night. Still, he wanted to offer them staying at the Potter Manor, but neither of them wanted to leave their home. At that moment the door opened and two men entered, James Potter and Arthur Weasley. "Arthur," Molly exclaimed, rushing to hug her husband. "I'm sorry, Molly, I should have been there," Arthur said, his voice heavy with guilt. "You would have been in even more danger," James interjected. "It was a terrible situation, but we should be grateful that most of you survived." Arthur nodded solemnly before scanning the room. His gaze settled on Harry. "I don't know how to repay you for this," Arthur began. "Come on, Arthur, you don't have to say anything else. Molly has already thanked my son enough," Lily interjected. She could tell Harry was growing uncomfortable with all the gratitude. "You should check on Ginny. She's still sleeping." The door swung open again, and Fred appeared, excitement on his face. "She's awake. Ginny is awake." The Weasleys immediately rushed out of the kitchen, leaving the others behind. "What's going on?" a confused Victoria asked. Daphne, sitting nearby, answered cautiously. "Our families were attacked last night. Ginny was badly hurt and," she hesitated. "By who? Who attacked you?" Victoria asked, surprised. She still didn't know much about the magical world she now found herself in, as the Potters had kept conversations light around her. Daphne glanced at Harry, seeking his input. "It won't hurt for her to know," Harry said. He wasn't sure how far along the war had progressed in her world, but withholding information seemed pointless. Daphne nodded. "We believe it was the Dark Lord who sent them." Victoria's eyes widened in shock. "Even the Weasleys? But they're so close to the Dark Lord. Why would he attack them? Did they betray him?" "The Weasleys, close to the Dark Lord?" James repeated, looking baffled. Harry quickly pieced together the misunderstanding. "Victoria, what Dark Lord are you talking about?" "Albus Dumbledore," she declared without hesitation, anger flashing in her eyes as she said his name. Harry sighed. "As I thought. Wait, what?" Mostly everyone was confused by her comment. "Victoria," Lily began gently, "we've discussed this before. People here are different from the ones you knew. Albus Dumbledore is not an evil man, much less a Dark Lord." "Hold on, is that the only Dark Lord you know?" Daphne asked. "Of course not," Victoria huffed, clearly annoyed. "There's Lord Grindelwald. Everyone thought Dumbledore killed him, but it was all a ruse. And now, does the name Lord Voldemort mean anything to you?" Harry asked. Victoria thought for a moment. "I don't know any wizard by that name. I'd remember hearing something so strange, and it doesn't even sound like a proper wizarding family." Her answer left everyone stunned. "How is that possible?" James muttered. "Could her world be so different?" Lily wondered aloud. "Can someone please explain?" Victoria demanded, exasperated. "Fascinating," Celine Greengrass mused. She only knew bits about Victoria's origin but found it intriguing. "Mom, I want more," Holly interrupted, sliding her plate toward Lily. Realizing the topic wasn't suitable for the kitchen, Harry stood up. "Victoria, come with me," he said. "We should discuss this in private." Victoria narrowed her eyes suspiciously, but followed. Whoever this Voldemort was, he clearly held great significance. Harry led her to the library, and they sat down to talk. He gave her a detailed rundown of Voldemort, from his rise to power, his atrocities and the war. "A completely different Dark Lord," Victoria murmured, trying to process the information. "It's hard to believe. How can there be so many differences? I thought parallel worlds only varied slightly." "Our worlds must have diverged significantly," Harry said. "I mean, just look at us. We're very different." "Are you pointing at my breasts?" Victoria raised an eyebrow. Harry flushed slightly but kept his composure. "I'm just stating the obvious. Different gender, different names. Our worlds likely had wildly different circumstances." "We're different," Victoria corrected. her voice tinged with sorrow. Her world was no more. Right. But to be fair, Victoria hesitated. Our names aren't that different. How so? Victoria seems very… Harriet, she interrupted, a sad smile forming on her lips. Harriet Potter was my birth name. Harry blinked in surprise. You got angry when I suggested that name when we first met, he recalled. My adoptive mother gave me a new identity, one he couldn't take from me. I left my past behind, she explained. I see, but if you want a she… No, Victoria exclaimed, her voice firm. I won't change the name my mother gave me. I'll carry it with pride until the day I die. Harry waited patiently as she calmed herself. Clearly her name was a sensitive topic. Better? He asked gently. Sorry, I shouldn't have lost my composure. It's unbecoming, even if I'm no longer the Lady of the House of Black. It's fine. Harry pulled a small box from his pocket dimension. Let's change the topic. I need your input on something. Victoria raised an eyebrow as she took the box and opened it. Jewels? They're designed to store magic in the Arkstones and release it in a single burst. Part of the rune work amplifies the effect, Harry explained. Victoria's face paled. You're planning to use these? You might as well sign your death warrant. This will kill you. Harry chuckled softly. I already used them last night. The problem is, they're not recharging. Victoria stared at him, dumbfounded. After a long pause, she looked back at the jewels. This is insane. There are 9 of them. If these work the way I think they do, the amplification could kill a dragon. That sounds about right, so can you fix it? Harry asked, smirking. You're serious? Victoria asked, still in disbelief. Several days later, after things had calmed down a bit, the 3 families were gathered in the Potter Manor living room, discussing what to do next. What do you mean by that? We can't go back to Hogwarts? Daphne looked very upset. I said you shouldn't go back. A lot of people will be looking for you, and Harry glanced at Ginny and her family members, who were sitting nearby. I'm okay with not going back to school for a while, Ron said hurriedly. Of course you are. Fred rolled his eyes. Are we still in danger? Ginny asked. Molly hugged her daughter. You're safe here, my dear. I won't let anyone hurt you again. Daphne, Sebastian Greengrass called. Father, Daphne turned to look at him. Harry is correct. The Dark Lord does not take losses lightly. Now that the illusion of neutrality has been shattered, we have openly become his enemies. He will most definitely try again. I understand that, but Arthur glanced at his family. The children will need to finish their education. Are you suggesting sending them to a different school? Like Beauxbatons? Ginny asked. The one where Fleur Delacroix goes? Ron asked with mild excitement. As much as he disliked school, he wasn't entirely opposed to the idea. We can't afford that school. You know that, Arthur, Molly said. I wasn't suggesting that one. That won't be necessary. As I told Lord Greengrass, this conflict won't last that long, Harry said. You seem very sure about that, Celine commented, but you haven't shared any details in that regard. Mother, you know he can't, Daphne told her. Why not? Harry, what's going on? Ginny became more curious. Harry had always been secretive, and she knew he was hiding something big, but even Lyra wouldn't talk about it. Ginny, that's enough, Molly said in a firm tone. Some things are too dangerous to know. I already said this before, Lily spoke, but you are all more than welcome to stay as long as necessary, and you don't have to worry about the kids' education. My wife is qualified to teach them for a while, James said. This manor is also well equipped with a library, a spellcasting area, and even a Quidditch field. We can play Quidditch here. Ron was getting excited. Harry looked at Daphne. He knew she was not happy with this arrangement at all. It won't be long. I promise, he said softly. Daphne frowned. That just means you're going to put yourself in more danger, isn't it? She whispered. Ginny's eyes moved to observe the 2 of them. She hadn't missed how close they seemed. Do we know if any other families were attacked that night? Celine asked. We do. James pulled out a letter. I received this from Dumbledore just yesterday. 2 other houses were targeted. Well, Sebastian urged him to continue. The Abbotts, James said. Ginny gasped. Hannah's family? What happened to them? She wasn't close to the Hufflepuff girl, but they at least knew each other. James shook his head. No survivors. Oh no, Ginny cried. And who else? Daphne asked, a terrible feeling creeping over her. The Davises. Daphne's face turned pale. Tracy's family? Lord Davis is still alive, but his father and Lady Davis were killed, James added. Harry remained quiet and just held Daphne's hand. He had learned about this last night but hadn't had the chance to tell her. He also knew that Snape had been the one who killed Tracy's mother, but he wasn't ready to share that. No, Tracy. Tears began to stream down Daphne's face. Harry pulled her closer and hugged her tightly as she cried. The room remained silent for a while. When Daphne calmed down a bit, she spoke again. Wait, but Tracy is at Hogwarts. Does she know? She does. James nodded. The headmaster informed her. I assume she's with her father at the moment. I need to send her a letter, at least. I need to know how she is, Daphne said. I don't think it's a good idea to contact her right now, Harry said. What are you saying? She just lost her mother. I just want her to know that. I know, but think about it, Harry interrupted. Daphne, dear, Celine called softly. Why do you think her father is still alive? Sebastian asked. Daphne's eyes widened in realization. To survive, Lord Davis must have sworn loyalty to the Dark Lord. If she receives a letter from our family right now, Celine began. I'll get her in trouble, Daphne finished. She understood now. Voldemort would want to know their location. If he thought he could use Tracy to get that information, she would be in grave danger. Daphne stood up. I won't send a letter, but I need to be alone for a bit, she said before leaving the dining hall. Harry stood up a few minutes later. If anyone needs me, I'll be in the basement. He needed to blow off some steam. Ginny saw him leaving the room and stood up. Excuse me for a moment, she said, hurrying to catch up with him. She left the hall and saw Harry turning a corner. Ginny wanted to ask him something important, or at least it felt important to her. She moved faster until she saw his figure again. Ginny raised her hand and was about to call for him, but something stopped her. She couldn't bring herself to call out. Do I even want to know? She wondered. After what she had seen in the hall, she was almost certain there was something between him and Daphne. All she had to do was ask, and Harry would tell her the truth. But she hesitated. When she looked up again, Harry was nowhere to be seen. Are you lost, redhead? Ginny turned to the voice and found herself staring into familiar piercing green eyes, but they didn't belong to Harry. Instead, she was looking at a beautiful girl with long black hair and elegant robes. Ginny was sure she had seen her before. On January 7, Harry returned to the castle by himself. His house had gotten a bit too lively for his taste, so he welcomed the change. He was one of the first students to return, and as such he found the Gryffindor common room completely empty for a change. Deciding to take advantage of the quiet, he lay down on one of the sofas and closed his eyes for a bit. Before he realized it, he had fallen asleep. Harry? He opened his eyes when he felt someone calling his name and touching his shoulder. Hermione? Harry discovered the bushy-haired girl staring at him. Sorry, I didn't want to bother you. You looked so peaceful while sleeping. Hermione looked apologetic. Harry peeked around. He must have slept for a while, because the common room had become much busier, with students going here and there, talking to their friends with excitement on their faces. Everyone seemed ready to start the new term, having no idea of the storm that was approaching. It's just that dinner is going to start in 15 minutes. I thought you wouldn't want to miss it, Hermione added. Right, thanks, Harry responded. Her 2 close friends approached and promptly led her away after greeting him. Harry? Oh, there you are. Lyra sat down beside him. Where have you been? You disappeared after New Year's. Harry glanced at his sister. Much like the other students, she was completely unaware of what had happened. I had some stuff to do outside the school. Did anyone ask for me? Lyra shook her head. Good. That meant not many eyes had been on him or his family. That's not good, Lyra exclaimed. "You should worry more about your popularity." Harry wanted to roll his eyes. "I have other concerns at the moment, and I thought you were avoiding me." Lyra looked down, feeling a bit embarrassed. "I wasn't trying to, I was just trying to be considerate with my best friend." Well, I spoke with her recently," Harry said. "You did?" Lyra perked up. "But when? She's at home. I actually wanted to ask you if you saw her today. She should be back at school by now, but I can't find her." About that, he was going to have to tell her after all. "And Neville says he can't find Ron either. Have you seen any of the Weasleys?" Lyra asked. Harry stood up from the couch. "Come with me, let's speak in private." He didn't want anyone overhearing the conversation. Lyra looked somewhat confused by the secrecy. This didn't seem like such an important matter after all. Still, she followed her brother outside the common room. She knew he wasn't the type to exaggerate, so it must be important. "Harry, did something happen?" She was getting worried now, and the more she thought about it, the worse it seemed. "Here." After making sure no one was around, he pulled her into an unused classroom. Once inside, he secured the door. "Harry?" On the night of New Year's Eve, 4 families were attacked by Voldemort's followers. "What? Wait, you don't mean—" Lyra's face went pale. "Yes, the Weasleys were one of them, but Ginny is fine." "She is? Oh, thank Merlin," Lyra sighed. "She is, but her brother George was killed." Oh no, Lyra had always been fond of the Weasley twins. Many people disliked them for their pranks, but the two had always been nice to her. Poor George. But where are they? "Our father placed them in a secure location. For now it's not safe for them to return to Hogwarts. Our enemies have eyes and ears everywhere." Harry considered telling her where Ginny was and even offering to take her home for a few hours, but he decided it was better to keep quiet. The less Lyra knew, the safer she would be. "You said 4 families. Who else was attacked?" Lyra asked. Harry told her about the others, only skipping unnecessary details, like the fact that he and Daphne had gone to save her family. Lyra was too shocked to ask many questions anyway. "So, I won't be seeing Astoria or Ginny? At least for this term, no." Harry hoped everything would be over before the end of the year. That would give them the best chance of survival. If possible, he wanted to bait Voldemort into launching a full-on assault on the school during the second task. He had concluded that the more significant an event, the more powerful the convergence would be. Voldemort's resurrection at the end of the third task was undoubtedly one of the most critical events of this era. The resulting convergence of such an event could end everything. He wanted to avoid that risk at all costs. "Harry?" He realized his sister was still looking at him. "It's best if you don't speak of this with anyone for now. Eventually this will become public news. But until then, not even Neville. He's going to keep asking for Ron. Not even him. Can you do that?" Harry wasn't sure, so he had to ask. Lyra huffed. "Of course. Who do you take me for? I'm not the same clumsy girl from the past who couldn't keep a single secret." "Is that so?" Harry didn't look convinced. "I just don't like keeping things from my boyfriend." Lyra then seemed to realize something. "You still haven't said anything about that." "About what?" "You know, me and Neville dating. Are you okay with that?" she asked. "Well, I don't love the idea of my little sister dating anyone, but I suppose you could do much worse than Neville Longbottom." Harry shrugged. "Come on, Neville is a great guy." Lyra perked up. "He's okay," Harry answered. "And he's a fantastic kisser." "Hey!" Harry stopped her. "I don't need too many details." He unlocked the door. "Now, run along. You'd better hurry to the Great Hall." Lyra glanced at him. "You're not coming to dinner?" "I'll eat something later. There's someone I need to speak with first," Harry told her before walking away in the direction of the stairs. "Come in." Harry stepped through the office door after hearing Dumbledore's familiar invitation. The headmaster sat behind his desk, as he often did, looking weary and burdened. "Not going to enjoy the feast?" Dumbledore asked, a faint trace of a smile on his face. "I'm not hungry, and we need to talk," Harry replied. Dumbledore nodded. "How are the families holding up?" Harry shrugged. "They're being patient, given the situation. Have the teachers started asking questions yet?" Only Minerva for now, but having an entire family of redheads vanish is bound to attract attention sooner rather than later, Dumbledore admitted. You can always claim ignorance. Let the Ministry of Magic fabricate an explanation. It won't matter anyway, Harry said calmly. Dumbledore frowned. She is my friend, Harry, and a member of the Order. I hate having to keep things from her. You can tell her everything once it's done. For now, I know the fewer people involved, the better, Dumbledore sighed, his exhaustion clear. This will already be a delicate plan to pull off. Did you find the man we need? Harry asked as he took a seat, glancing at the perch where Fawkes rested. The phoenix let out a soft, melodic cry. Hello to you too, Fawkes, Harry greeted before turning back to Dumbledore. I have, Dumbledore replied. He doesn't have much time left and is asking for compensation for his family. A poor old man. His family will be £10 million richer, and he's going to save countless lives. I don't pity him that much, Harry said coldly. Sacrifices were inevitable. He had learned that lesson long ago. Dumbledore looked deeply troubled. I still have doubts about this plan. Which part? You won't be at risk, so is that what worries you? Harry asked, his tone slightly sharper. Don't patronize me, Harry, Dumbledore snapped, his blue eyes flashing. It's not my safety that concerns me. I would die 1,000 times to protect the children in this school. It's them I worry about. They won't be at risk, Harry assured him firmly. Dumbledore slammed his fists onto the desk. You want to lure an army inside the castle walls. Harry remained unfazed. An army that will swiftly die by my hand before they have the chance to harm a single innocent student. I can guarantee Voldemort's defeat if he comes here, but I can't make the same promise if it happens anywhere else. Can you really guarantee it? Dumbledore pressed. After hearing Severus's report, Voldemort is not even human anymore. We don't know the extent of his protections. The only certainty we have is that he's no longer using Horcruxes. He must have found something far more secure. That's why I need him here. I know I can defeat him in this castle, nowhere else, Harry said with unwavering confidence. You always seem to have something hidden up your sleeve, Dumbledore murmured, studying Harry intently. Harry met his gaze without flinching. Of course I do. Will you trust me with this? After a long moment, Dumbledore's expression softened. I will trust you, Harry. I will trust you with everyone's fate, and I can only hope that I won't regret it. Good. Harry stood. Finish the preparations on your side and I'll do the same on mine. We shouldn't meet again unless absolutely necessary. I don't want to take any unwarranted risks this close to the goal. Dumbledore nodded. That's probably for the best. How is Professor Snape holding up? Harry asked, changing the subject. Not well, not after being forced to commit such atrocities. But I know him. Severus will not fail. He will do his duty until the end, as he wants this to be over, as much as we do. Dumbledore said quietly. Let's hope so, Harry replied, though there was little sympathy in his tone. Dumbledore hesitated before adding, he's made a curious request. He wants asylum for Narcissa Malfoy. Draco's mother? Harry raised an eyebrow. From what I understand, she only joined Voldemort to protect her son. Severus says she's looking for a way out. Harry shrugged indifferently. As long as she's not too involved with the Death Eaters, I won't pursue her. Just tell Snape to ensure she doesn't participate in the battle. I'll pass along the message, Dumbledore agreed. If there's nothing else to discuss, I'll take my leave, Harry said, heading for the door. Aren't you going to eat anything? Dumbledore asked. I'll visit the kitchens later, Harry replied. For now, I think I'll spend some time in the room of requirement and break a few dummies. After Harry left, Dumbledore turned to Fawkes. It's going to work, right, Fawkes? The phoenix let out a loud, echoing cry. Meanwhile, at a distant, gloomy manor, he's waiting for you, and he's not happy, Bellatrix said with a wicked grin. I hope you brought him good news, or you may not survive the night. Snape nodded. Open the door. Of course Voldemort would be in a foul mood. He had been that way since the night of the attacks, when he lost many of his most loyal followers. The worst blow, however, was that he still hadn't uncovered the culprits. Severus. Voldemort's chilling voice greeted him. The Dark Lord was seated on his throne, his skeletal face illuminated in the dim light. Red eyes, glowing with a terrifying light, fixed on Snape. What do you have for me? Speak. Snape knelt before him, lowering his head. I have succeeded in my task, my lord. You mean? Voldemort's voice quivered with anticipation. The liquid curse we prepared for Dumbledore, I've successfully made him drink it. In less than 6 weeks, the old wizard will completely lose his magic. Voldemort's lips curled into a ghastly smile, his red eyes blazing with triumph. Albus Dumbledore, you are mine now. 10 days before the second task, Potter Manor. Lyra, Ginny and Astoria rushed forward to greet their friend. It had been almost 2 months since they last saw each other. I missed you so much, Lyra exclaimed, pulling them both into a hug. While his sister was having her moment with her friends, Harry looked across the hall where Daphne sat reading. As he approached, he noticed she was engrossed in one of the books they had retrieved from the family vault at Gringotts. Found something interesting? Harry asked, sitting beside her. Daphne glanced at him, her lips curving into a smile. Your mother knows you've been sneaking into the house every week to see me. And what did she say to you? Daphne scoffed. She told me she expects us to be careful. Can you believe that? From her? Yes, Harry said with a smirk. Lily Potter had never been the strictest of parents. Daphne chuckled, leaning back in her chair. Careful. What was she doing in her 4th year, I wonder? I don't think I want the answer to that question, Harry replied with a serious expression. Daphne glanced toward the trio of girls laughing and chatting nearby. It was kind of you to bring Lyra. Astoria's been impatient to see her again. I'm sure Ginny felt the same. Lyra was starting to drive Neville mad with all the attention she was giving him. Daphne smirked. I don't know about that. Ginny's been getting along with Victoria surprisingly well. They seem to have become fast friends. Really? Those two are so different, Harry said, surprised. Ginny, embodying the boldness of a Gryffindor, and Victoria, the epitome of a Slytherin princess. It was an odd pairing. Well, you know what they say about opposites attracting, Daphne mumbled. Harry didn't quite catch that. Never mind. Did you miss me? Daphne asked, her tone playful as she struck a coquettish pose. I saw you 2 days ago. Daphne frowned. That's not what I... Harry. Both of them turned to see Lily Potter approaching, her expression alight with mischief. She leaned in close to Harry's ear, whispering, I thought your next visit was on Friday. This isn't a private visit, Harry replied evenly. Lyra was desperate to see her friends. At Hogwarts, she only has Luna, and while I adore Luna, talking to her too much can be a bit much. You're no fun, Lily pouted. And you're supposed to be the responsible adult, Harry shot back. Oh, before I forget, Victoria's been asking for you, Lily said. She must have finished fixing the artifacts I left with her, Harry noted, standing. Where is she? She's in her room. Don't worry, I'll keep Daphne company, Lily said with a chuckle. As Harry made his way out of the hall, someone else called his name. Harry? Wait. Turning, he was surprised to see Ginny approaching him. They hadn't spoken much over the past few months. She hesitated, clearly trying to gather her thoughts. I'm an idiot. I should have said this sooner, but I was too embarrassed to talk to you properly. You can tell me anything, Ginny. There's no need to be embarrassed, Harry said gently. I wanted to thank you. You saved my life, and my family's too. If it weren't for you, Ginny trailed off. Your mother thanked me enough. As for George, Ginny interrupted, shaking her head. Harry, you can't save everyone. You've done more than enough already. Do your other brothers know what happened? They're welcome here too, you know. Bill doesn't know yet, Ginny admitted. He's still researching some ancient tomb in the Middle East. We'll tell him as soon as he returns. They spoke for a few more minutes before parting ways. As Harry turned to leave, Ginny called out again, Oh, and Harry, you and Daphne don't have to hide it, not for my sake at least, anyway. I know, and I'm fine with it now. Harry nodded. I'll let Daphne know. That wasn't the main reason they'd kept their relationship a secret, but Ginny didn't need to know that. After a short walk, Harry arrived at Victoria's room and knocked. "Come in," came her voice. Inside he found Victoria playing Exploding Snap with Holly. "Harry!" Holly leaped from the bed, wrapping her arms around him in a warm hug. "You know Lyra's down in the main hall," Harry said. "Why don't you go greet her? She'd love to see you." But Holly glanced back at her game, reluctant to leave. "You can finish it later. It's not going anywhere, and it's polite to say hello to your family when they visit," Harry said. Holly still seemed unconvinced. "Besides," Victoria added, "I need to talk to your brother about something." "But Harry's your brother too, isn't he?" Holly asked, looking between them. Victoria glanced at Harry with a raised eyebrow. "I suppose, genetically speaking, at least." "Genitally," Holly frowned, unfamiliar with the term. "Never mind that. Go on now," Victoria said, ushering her out. Once Holly left, Victoria retrieved a small box from her desk drawer. "Were you able to fix it?" Harry asked. She handed him the box. "I fixed it, and improved upon it. Though I still think it'll kill you if you use it." "Already did that once," Harry said dryly, examining the artifacts. The Arkenstone jewelry was fully charged, but something caught his attention. "What are these symbols?" Victoria raised an eyebrow. "Runes, of course. You really are bad at this, aren't you?" Harry frowned. The runes didn't resemble anything he'd studied. "But they look familiar. Where have I seen these before?" 5 days before the second task, Hogwarts Castle. Despite the grim news that students had been receiving over the past 2 months, the mood at the school was overall a cheerful one. The missing students were hardly noticed, amidst the influx of others from Beauxbatons and Durmstrang, and with only a few days left until the next task, the Triwizard Tournament was all anyone could talk about. Harry had become more reclusive recently, only venturing out to attend classes when absolutely necessary, and even then, just to maintain appearances. His focus was on ensuring everything was ready for the upcoming battle. After completing his training routine in the room of requirement, Harry was strolling leisurely through the 7th-floor corridor. There were only a few minutes left until curfew, but if needed he could always apparate to safety. As expected, the halls were completely silent at this time. He savored these small moments of peace and quiet, so he wasn't in any rush to return to his dormitory. Passing one of the many open windows, he glanced outside. Even from this height, much of the dark forest was visible under tonight's moonlight, giving it an eerie aura. "Wait, what was that?" He stopped abruptly, feeling something bizarre emanating from the distant forest. There were no visible clues at first sight, but he sensed a peculiar magical signature deep within the woods. However, it was fleeting, vanishing almost as quickly as it appeared. Did I imagine it? It wouldn't be out of the question. He had just finished an exhausting session in the room of requirement. Though he could have kept going for a few more hours, perhaps his perception had been dulled. "No, this isn't the time to be careless. I need to check it out at least." This close to the second task, it wouldn't be surprising to find Voldemort's followers snooping around, trying to set something up around the castle boundaries. That was not a risk he was willing to take. While he'd assumed precautions with Hogsmeade, he hadn't considered the dark forest as a potential weak point. It would be an odd choice for a point of invasion, given the forest's many dangerous creatures and the open space between its edge and the castle. Anyone attempting such a thing would be completely exposed. "Let's go see what it is." Without further hesitation, Harry pulled his broom from his pocket dimension and jumped out of the window. He soared toward the area where he had felt the strange magical signature and descended slowly. Wand in hand, he advanced cautiously. "Wait, this place is—" He recognized the shapes of the trees and caught a glimpse of the clearing ahead. It was the same pond where he had encountered Rebustin and the vampires accompanying him. This was no coincidence. Whoever had been here was almost certainly connected to Voldemort. Activating his concealment ability, Harry vanished from sight. In this state, detecting him was nearly impossible. For good measure, he cast a silencing charm on his feet. As he approached the clearing, the scene became more evident. The light of the full moon reflected off the pond, illuminating the area. A young-looking girl with long black hair stood by the pond, appearing deep in thought. She wore an elegant, old-fashioned black dress with a wide dome-like skirt reminiscent of the Victorian era. Although some pure-blood families still favored such attire, it was a rarity to see nowadays. But what caught Harry's attention the most was her umbrella. Despite the absence of rain and the lateness of the hour, she held it open above her head. "Are you the one who killed my brethren?" the girl asked somberly, turning her gaze directly toward Harry. She was stunningly beautiful, enough to momentarily distract even Harry. Her features were doll-like, porcelain skin, amber eyes, and an innocent face that could make anyone lower their guard. "You cannot hide your presence from me, young lord. These old eyes have seen too much for that." Her voice was both sweet and menacing. Harry dropped his concealment, revealing himself. "Oh, there you are. You look a bit younger than I imagined by the feel of your magic." She scrutinized him with her piercing gaze, as though measuring his worth. "You couldn't see me, yet you knew I was here," Harry observed, realizing her sensitivity to magic was far more refined than his own. He didn't need to ask what she was. Her appearance and her mention of brethren confirmed it. This was a vampire, likely related to the ones he had killed before. But this vampire was much different from the other ones he encountered previously in this same place. Her aura exuded a danger he had never felt before, far greater than the colossal basilisk he had once fought in his second year. "What is an ancient vampire lord doing in a place like this?" Harry asked calmly, and fairly confident in his guess about her status. Unfazed by his accurate deduction, the girl smiled sweetly. "I came to investigate the place where some of my brothers and sisters fell. I wasn't entirely convinced by the story I was told, and now I find a young lord here. So, I will ask once more." Her amber eyes flickered red. "Are you the one who killed my brethren?" Harry gripped his staff in his left hand, his wand in his right. This was not an opponent he could take lightly, and in fact it may be the most dangerous individual he has faced in his lifetime. "What if I said that I was?" he asked, noticing how her eyes shifted to an orange hue. The dark energy emanating from her body grew stronger. She was preparing to attack. Harry had a fair amount of experience fighting vampires, but this was only the second time he had faced one this ancient. Vampires, being immortal, grew more powerful with age, and this one was extremely ancient. With a tap of his staff, the ground beneath him began to stir. The girl glanced downward. "Tusk! How annoying!" She leaped away just as jagged rock spikes erupted from the floor. While airborne, she appeared to step on thin air before vanishing, only to reappear beside Harry. Her umbrella was now closed, wielded like a spear. Its metallic tip glinted in the moonlight. Harry flicked his wand, conjuring dozens of silver blades around him. The vampire darted backward, maintaining distance. "Oh, Silver, how scary. You're quick for a wizard too," the girl remarked. "And so much magic." She lifted the hem of her skirt, releasing a swarm of bats that poured out like a dark cloud. "What a peculiar trick," Harry muttered with a raised eyebrow. The bats swirled around him, then launched at him in a suicidal frenzy. He had to abandon the blades and apparated a short distance away, leaving behind a ball of fire that detonated a moment later. The bats disintegrated into dust, which coalesced into a black mist and returned to the girl. She moved again and appeared next to him. She made a swing aimed at his face with her open hand. Her nails had grown long and sharp as blades, but Harry had been ready to conjure his strongest defense. Magna Custodia. A translucent wall appeared in between them, but confident in her abilities, the vampire did not stop her motion. "Arg!" She yelped in pain as her nails and fingers collided against the barrier and shattered by the sheer force of the impact. Although Harry was more surprised by the fact that she still managed to crack his defensive charm. This barrier was capable of stopping pretty much everything. 3 layers were enough to contain the equivalent of a miniature sun, but she cracked it. The vampire took a step back and glanced at her hand. "That hurt." As she said this, her hand was quickly regenerating and the bones on her fingers were making unnatural noises as they went back into their proper places. "Shall we stop playing games, young lord?" she asked, her voice ominous. As she spoke, her eyes turned a deep blood red, and her black hair began to whiten like ash. It's been centuries since I had to do this. The intensity of her aura grew suffocating. Harry realized his current strength wouldn't suffice. Let's hope Victoria fixed them properly. Libero. The 9 Arkstone crystals embedded in his body activated simultaneously, flooding him with a surge of magical energy. A luminous blue mist surrounded him. Black fog seeped from his body, intertwining with the blue light. The robes of death manifested around him, shielding him from harm. The suffocating pressure from the vampire vanished entirely. Harry's eyes glowed with a piercing blue light that drove away all darkness, while black holes materialized in the air around him. The ancient vampire, poised to lunge at him, froze in her tracks. Her red eyes widened in astonishment. This magic, that can't be. Death, she muttered under her breath. Harry pointed his staff at one of the black holes. Let's see what you can do with this. Pure white light began radiating from the 3 stones at the top of the staff. Lumen. Wait, my lord, mercy! The vampire threw herself to the ground, slamming her forehead against it. Her umbrella clattered to the floor as she reverted to her human form, her transformation undone in an instant. Mercy, oh great lord of death! Harry blinked, bewildered by her sudden change in demeanor. What are you doing? He asked, baffled. Moments ago she had been defiant, ready to attack and go for the kill. Now she was groveling on the ground and begging for mercy. What is the meaning of this? Do you wish to surrender without a fight? He continued. You were so eager to face me just a moment ago. I mistook you for a young sorcerer, lord, and wanted to measure myself against you, she admitted, her voice trembling. But the magic you just displayed, I realize now how wrong I was. Harry noticed that while speaking she wasn't looking at him but at the area around and above him. You can see all forms of magic with those eyes, he deduced. Her fear made sense now. She must have perceived the full magnitude of his unleashed magic, including the latent power of the 9 Arkstones and the Death Visage. I can see it all, my lord, she confirmed. It's a gift I awakened in my youth, several millennia ago. Several millennia, this vampire is far older and far more powerful than I initially thought, but her sudden submission left him in a tricky situation. He needed to tread carefully. Are you a follower of Voldemort? He asked. The vampire's face twisted in disgust. Of course not. Why would I follow that child? I merely proposed an alliance. I offered him the assistance of myself and my brethren in exchange for that castle and its surrounding lands. She pointed in the direction of Hogwarts. That fool assured me that no lord owned these lands. The only one he mentioned was a female in London, but he claimed she is bound to her territory and unable to leave. Morgana Le Fay. He knows about her, Harry thought, surprised. She was hardly the type to advertise her existence. Had I known this was your domain, I would never have made such an offer. I swear to you, she pleaded earnestly. Harry didn't care whether she was lying or telling the truth. His hesitation to kill her stemmed from other concerns. The immense magical power from the Arkstone array could only be maintained for a few minutes before dissipating. He had to decide quickly. If the vampire realized he wasn't as powerful as she believed, the situation could change drastically. Lords. In certain old circles of the magical world, that title denotes more than nobility. For magical beings, there are countless ways to extend one's life. There are soul containers, curses, vampirism, necromancy, blood magic, alchemy, and the list will continue to extend as more discoveries are made. Those who succeed in extending their lifespan for 5 centuries are given the title of young lords. Those who can manage to do so for over 1,000 years will earn the title of old lord. And finally, those who can survive in this world for over 2,000 years are known as the ancient lords. The last distinction is most often reserved for vampires, as they are among the few creatures capable of such longevity. Wizards and witches rarely pass the 1,000-year mark, no matter what methods they employ. But those who can even go past the millennial mark are both feared and revered. An old wizard lord is considered many times more dangerous than even an ancient vampire lord. The sheer magic and knowledge that a wizard could amass in such a span defies calculation. No one in their right mind would willingly antagonize such a being. Harry Potter wasn't even close to being a young lord, but the sheer power of his magic often led others to misjudge. The two Spanish craftsmen had already confused him with a young lord during his visit, and Morgana Le Fay had done the same. He never tried to correct their mistake, as the real explanation for his bizarre magical signature was going to be much harder to believe. The vampire standing before him was also one such individual. Gifted with the rare ability of Major Sight, she could perceive the intricate flow and potency of magic with extraordinary clarity. This ability had led her to a terrifying conclusion that Harry was an old wizard lord, one who had hidden away for many centuries, or perhaps something far worse. It can't be. The vampire took a cautious step back. For a being who had existed for several thousands of years, long-forgotten memories now clawed their way to the surface. A very long time ago, before Hogwarts had even been conceived, the lands Harry now stood on had been home to the only ancient wizard lord in all recorded history, at least as far as she knew. She was young and naive then, full of ambition and curiosity. The British Isles were scarcely inhabited by humans at the time, save for scattered barbarian tribes. Seeking refuge from the crowded Sumerian Empire, she and her vampire kin had crossed great distances to settle here. They hoped for an easier life, far from the watchful eyes of mortal empires. But another race had already claimed this island as their domain, the elves. Not the diminutive creatures humans now called house elves, but tall, elegant beings of unparalleled beauty and strength, their magic flowing as naturally as the wind or sea. They ruled the British Isles with mastery over the elements and an unyielding pride. The vampires quickly learned to conceal themselves, utterly terrified of the elves' overwhelming power. For centuries, they lived in the shadows, contemplating leaving the dangerous land altogether. But then one day, the elves vanished without a warning. Years passed before the vampire pieced together fragments of the truth from human stories in what is now Scotland. There had been a sorcerer, a solitary man, who lived near a small forest. The elves, enamored by the land's beauty and its power hidden underneath, had tried to claim it for themselves. No one knew exactly what happened next, but when the dust settled, the elves were gone. At first, they thought the elves had been annihilated entirely. But soon after, strange, diminutive creatures began to appear, beings with pointy ears and a faint resemblance to the proud elves of old. These small, servile creatures were nothing like their predecessors. Ugly and pitiable, they were doomed to spend eternity in servitude to wizards. Many believed the elves had incurred the wrath of an immensely powerful ancient lord, who not only destroyed their civilization but cursed the survivors, stripping them of their pride and beauty for all eternity. They were now known only as house elves, the servants of the wizard kind, and only a few still remembered the once mighty race they had been. And all because they had dared to challenge him. However, this event had been a blessing for them. The vampires thrived after the elves' disappearance, turning the British Isles into a veritable paradise for their kind. But none dared approach the forest where the elves had ultimately fallen. Centuries passed. The humans multiplied and spread across the land, despite the occasional hunt from the vampires. Occasionally a human with magical ability would appear, but none posed a threat to the vampire clans. Arrogance grew among the vampire lords, and whispers of expanding into the forbidden lands near the forest began to circulate. Some believed the ancient wizard lord must be long dead. Others were confident in their superiority, even if he wasn't. Her clan alone abstained from the expedition. Despite the protests of her children and servants, who called her decision cowardly, she held firm in her decision to stay away from there. And in the end, she was proven to be correct. When news of the expedition's fate reached her, she fled the Isles with her clan, commandeering human ships to escape. All she knew was that other than her clan, there were no survivors. She never learned the full details of what happened, but one fact was clear: no vampire clan would ever return to Britain. Among her kind, the island became known as the Cursed Land. And the ancient wizard lord who nearly exterminated 2 entire magical races, he was given a dreadful title. For the vampire standing before Harry, it was impossible to ignore the parallels. His magic radiated with the intensity of the being who had once cursed an entire race, and mixed with his magic was something else. Something much darker. Enkara could feel the power of the end emerging out of his body. "You?" she whispered, trembling. Could it really be him? But her mind had already been made. The ancient wizard lord that had once filled her with dread, the one her kind had named Lord Death.